Natalie is mixed up in all kinds of crazy. To a large degree, she lies to herself. And in this video, we're going to not only talk about some of the mental issues or difficulties or challenges I think Natalie's character is presented with, but we're also going to talk about the young man that she's spending time with, Josh. My name is James. This is my take on reality. Let's get it. In my assessment, again, I don't know Natalie personally. I only know what I see on the TV show. But what I do see are signs that she actually suffers from some sort of depression. I don't know how deep it goes or how far it runs, but she has some issues where she can never quite be happy. No matter how happy she is, if you ever watch her, when she expresses any kind of joy or contentment with what's going on or the things happening in her life, she's always up, up, up. And then all of a sudden there's a sadness in her eyes. And in some cases it turns to a very dark or negative place. And then she tries to talk herself into being happy again. This type of depression kind of exhibits itself or is symptomatic of her being insecure. She likes to pretend that she has all this going on, all this confidence, and she believes in herself. But in reality, even when she was getting ready for her date with Josh, she said something to the effect of, I hope he likes me. I hope he thinks I'm pretty. Wait, I am pretty. I am pretty. And she tries to convince herself of these things. Because she has low self-esteem, this all makes her very vulnerable for people to step in and take advantage of her, especially in the sexual marketplace. When we talk about her in the sexual marketplace, because she's trying to project strength and she's trying to create the person that she wants to be and convince herself that she's this person, what she's actually doing is she's creating this fantasy world where she looks at herself and she's this strong, confident, beautiful woman who's going to get all this stuff and conquer the world. And she doesn't quite believe it. And in order for her to achieve these things, she creates the perfect partner. And it's not necessarily the guy who she's dating, even though in her mind, that guy may be walking around with that particular guy that she's dating's face. But she creates a guy who's loving, caring, compassionate, will help her to achieve her goals and her dreams. Wants for her the same thing that she wants, and wants for out of life the same thing she wants. Unfortunately for her, because she doesn't express herself well, and because the guys that she's attracted to and the guys she's attracting don't fall in line with the things that she says she wants. Let's talk about Josh. Josh is an interesting character because I think Josh kind of represents modern dating life, especially post 30. Like, he's a guy who has all the tools. He has the car, he has the job, he has a decent enough look. He's not an extraordinarily handsome guy, but he's got a decent enough look to where he's permissible. And he uses these tools to his advantage. One of the big tools that Josh uses, and is clear that he uses throughout this entire time that he's been in both seasons of the Single Life, he uses power dynamics to his advantage. What do I mean by that? He takes and has a job in the entertainment industry, and he's in a position where he can give opportunities to people. And these are the types of people that he chooses to hit on and make sexual advances to. For instance, if you have a young lady and she comes to Miami looking to be a model, and he's working with a modeling agency, and he says, hey, I think you're pretty. Would you like to go out on Friday? What is she supposed to say? No? Oh, yeah, by the way, you hear that sound? Yeah, that's the sound of that opportunity closing. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to go out with you. And this is part of the reason why, as a professional and somebody who takes his trade and his craft seriously, he would never try to cross the line between the two. Because if you have respect for your craft, you don't want to do anything to corrupt it. You have a position of power. That's almost textbook definition sexual harassment. You have a position of power. You could hire her or fire her based on your opinion. And now she knows that walking into the meeting, and most models understand that. He is the gatekeeper to her dreams. Also, in this particular episode, we watched him pay for a trip. Now, if he paid for her to come from Miami to LA, he's paying for her plane ticket, her hotel, her travel expenses, probably paying for her a little bit of pocket money so she can go out and enjoy the day or the evenings that he can't be with her, then that's also a power dynamic. You don't give me what I want, then you have to figure out your way back to Miami. Now, the sexual marketplace, it can have many different facets and express itself in many different ways. But we're going to break it down just for simplicity's sake into two goals. One is sexual versus relationship. In this case, Natalie wants a relationship. She's in the sexual marketplace looking for somebody who she can befriend, go into a relationship, marry, and have a family with. Josh, on the other hand, is in the sexual marketplace for sex. He's looking for women to conquest. He's not looking for a relationship, and that's clear. Because they have different goals, the best way for Natalie to approach the situation is for her to make sure that she's following the rules, or at least set rules and set standards that will help facilitate her getting the thing that she wants. Once you set these rules and you set these standards, you could be out on a date, and if the guy you're dating or the young lady you're talking to doesn't start checking off certain boxes and things that you want to hear, then you just end the date, or you finish the date out and you don't call them anymore. The beautiful thing about early dating and relationships and checking people out and figuring out what it is you want, you don't owe them an explanation. If Josh decided that he didn't really want to talk to Natalie anymore and he didn't want to deal with her, he doesn't owe her anything. Why? Because it's only the second date. They don't have a relationship. There's no commitment involved, etc., as he expressed. You don't have, and she doesn't owe him anything. Well, you brought me all the way out here. You don't want to spend time with me. You know what? This isn't for me. I'm going to get back on a plane, go back to Miami, and enjoy myself. But again, that kind of comes in with the power dynamic, because if she does that, does she get blacklisted on modeling websites or modeling gigs? That's part of the reason why you don't do this kind of thing. But that should also be a red flag for her, because if you do try to have a relationship with this guy, as she noted, he is in a position to where he can do the same thing to other young ladies at work. You know he does it because he did it to you. Now, when we talk about the sexual marketplace, and in Natalie's case, we're talking about her re-entering the sexual marketplace because technically she's separated from her husband. You know, when they talk about breakups, people often refer to, oh, there's plenty of fish in the sea, right? And here's the thing. When you try to go out and catch those fish, you want to use the right bait. You want to use the correct lure to get the right type of fish into your boat. Otherwise, you go out to the middle of the ocean, you throw the wrong kind of bait in, and when you pull your fishing rod back, all of a sudden you got a shark in your boat. When they got together and they were going to meet for the date that you're still trying to impress the other person, she got dressed up. She looked like she was going out to a nice evening. He looked like he was about to step on a 1990s stage with a grunge band, Pearl Jam, or Stone Temple Pilots or somebody, with a plaid shirt, standing there rubbing his hands like, oh, I can't wait. Ooh, I'm going to get this. Like he about to eat her or something. You got a shark in the boat, baby. This brings in the sequence of dating that I noticed even with this particular show, which is you have the recruitment. When you put the bait out, the lure, you're trying to attract a certain type of person, because not everybody is going to go for everything. If you're a guy and you're looking for one-night stands, you can't hook up with a woman who's looking for long-term relationships and is technically a traditional woman who may make you wait for weeks, months, or maybe even a year or so before you actually have sexual relations with her. 2, the investment. He wants her to invest in the relationship, because the deeper she invests in the relationship, whether it's time, whether it's hopes and dreams, or whatever the case may be, then the deeper she gets in. Once you start spending into the relationship, it's harder for her to stop spending into the relationship. You get so far. That's why in some situations you'll have people who've been in relationships for 5, 6 years, and then they say, or marriages for 10, 15, 20 years, and they say, well, you're unhappy, you're miserable, why don't you just leave? Well, I've been with them for this long. I don't just want to give that up, because then it just turns out that was just a big waste of time. So I don't want to give that up. And it's the same thing, just on a smaller scale. So you get them to constantly invest and reinvest themselves into this relationship that really doesn't exist, but they're investing in it nonetheless. So therefore they feel tied to it and indebted to it. Number 3, what Josh did was he stated what the relationship parameters and boundaries were. Now, in his case, it was easy because Natalie went into the whole, well, we don't have a commitment. We are not committed. I do not want to chase a man who does not want me, and all that stuff. What he got to say at that point was, okay, we don't have a relationship. We've only been dating. This is our second date. We haven't known each other that long, and that's not a time for a commitment. Then he falls in to step 4, which is the salvage. Once you make the statement that's going to kind of throw a little cold water on all the investment that she's made and all the hopes and dreams that she's made, and in Natalie's case, which is why she's kind of low-hanging fruit because of her insecurities and her low self-esteem, she's created this fantasy world where you guys are already dating. So she's already got an emotional investment into the relationship and you have none. So you're playing with the house money. So you got her invested into the relationship and she's buying in, and then you restate the goal so it snatches the rug out from underneath her. Then you have to salvage it. And the best way to salvage it is for you to still offer an olive branch of hope. So you say to her, oh, we're not in a relationship, but that's what we're working towards. That's why we're spending time here now, because you're giving her the hope that all your hopes and dreams and everything that you want could actually come true. And that's the salvage. Now, number 5 is the deal. Now, for me, the deal is a little shaky because he used the method of alcohol. By introducing alcohol, what that tells me is that he's taking her out and he's hoping that she makes logical mistakes. Because when you have sexual relations with somebody, no matter how relaxed your morals are, or how comfortable you are, or how freewheeling you are, at the end of the day, you're making a life decision. And when you're making life decisions, the last thing you need to do is be inebriated or have your mental capacity compromised. And that's what alcohol does. A lot of people will look at it and say, well, James, if she decides to sleep with him, that's what she decides to do. And I agree with that. She's an adult. He's an adult. And he already told her what it is. But the introduction of alcohol, especially if you didn't feed her, you know full well what it is you're doing. The last point I'm going to make, unless you're a complete psychopath or some kind of serial killer or something, when rubber meets the road, nobody wants to be the bad guy. So when you present all this evidence, let's say in the sexual marketplace, Josh is aware that Natalie wants a relationship because it's clear she wants a relationship. She was damn near ready to cry because she wants a relationship and she wants children and she wants to get married. So he knows this, right? On the other hand, Josh wants sex. Now, how could Josh reconcile the fact that he wants sex and he's about to deny Natalie the thing that she wants so that he can get the one thing that he wants and he can be out? Here's how you do it. First thing, during the recruitment, you find somebody who has compromised self-esteem issues. And when you have compromised self-esteem, what do you typically do? Like Natalie, you try to build yourself up. So you tell everybody you're confident, you're strong, you know what you want out of life, you go for what you want, you're a boss bitch, right? And then when you say those things, now all of a sudden you're in command, you're in charge, you know what you're doing. You don't do anything you don't want to do. 2, when she comes to town, you give her a second room because now she's in charge and she can do what she wants because she's got her own room, and I respect you because I'm giving you your own room. I suggest you get your own room, but please understand that when you have your own room, you're also giving him the ability to be able to go back to his room after he gets what he wants. So he doesn't have to spend the whole weekend with you or the next couple days with you. He can hit it, literally quit it, go back to his room, stay busy for the rest of the time you're out there, put you on a plane and send you home. 3, if I have a woman that I'm interested in, I want to spend as much time with her as I possibly can. I'm not going to just drop her off in a room, go off for the day, and then around late night or early evening, late evening, come home and say, hey, let's go down to the paddle boats and paddle around the lake for a little while and come back, get some drinks, and then go to sleep. That's not a thing. You want to be able to spend quality time with each other to get to know each other. If you're somebody I want to be in a relationship with and somebody whom he has 2 kids, so I want to not only get to know you for me, but I want to try to figure out if you're compatible with my children as well. There's a famous rapper named DMX from America, and he said something that I thought was profound. A young man had asked him, you work in the music industry, and you're surrounded by all these fake people. How do you deal with it, and how do you reconcile yourself to being able to deal with, negotiate with people who aren't genuine. DMX looked at him and said, I trust them to be them, and I trust myself to see them. And I think that that's profound. You have to be honest with yourself on who you are, what you want out of life, and what's good for you and what's bad for you. And then when you do those things, you can start seeing other people for who they are. My name is James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die.